The Bible has great significance to a religiously minded conservative America. Ben Shapiro, a stupid and sickening influencer, once referred to the Hebrew Bible as the Torah. It's Tanakh, dummy. The Tanakh has 3 sections, Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim, for a total of about 37 books. To me, the Hebrew Tanakh is a literary work. I know it in the Hebrew through secular study as a schoolgirl. It's a literary accomplishment that sports a lot of shit-hot writing. A story worth considering is Sodom and Gomorrah, and in particular, how the Almighty approached Sodom and Gomorrah, which was the sin city of antiquity. The all-knowing Almighty possessed full knowledge of the evidence for Sodom and Gomorrah's utter, complete debauchery and murderous decadence. In front of him, the Almighty had the totality of the crimes. The cumulative evidence was spread before him. What did he do? Did he dispatch a group of wise men to further investigate Sodom and Gomorrah, a place where crime was law? Did he solicit the perspective and opinion of the city's top criminals about their crimes? No. He had evidence in his infinite knowledge, much like an AI archive. In other words, did the Almighty do what the complicit, narrative-shaping collaborator Western corporate media do at this stage of Israel's crime spree? Of course not. Take UK's Channel 4 collaborators, and all Western media for that matter. Oh, Almighty Israel, give us your side of the story, these toady media persist in pleading with a serial killer state. Give us your take on your latest mass butchery, thievery, looting, and raping. We're listening, oh, Almighty Israel. What is wrong with the Sodom and Gomorrah media? Even Democracy Now!, decent dissident journalists, even they insult reality this way. Still, they reported on April of 23rd that Lebanese journalist Amal Khalil was killed by an Israeli strike. What the fuck and what dross. Like hundreds of Gaza's journalists before her, Kamal was first stalked by the serial killer thugs. Next, she was threatened by the serial killers who warned her that her head would be separated from her body if she didn't quit reporting about their crimes. Finally, Miss Khalil was martyred in a triple tap strike. Double tap or triple tap attacks are all terms from the genocidal entity's lexicon of crime and cowardice. First, they hit the target, almost always, 99% civilian. A journalist in this instance. They follow up with a strike on survivors and rescuers. For good measure, they repeat the feat. The biblical Sodom and Gomorrah was a city whose crimes, the least of which were carnal, do not come close to those of the serial killer state. By bringing up the sin city of antiquity analogy, you have not heard me recommend that the Almighty's solution to Sodom and Gomorrah be applied to the modern-day serial killer state. What you hear me point out, rather, are 3 things. First, that the modern-day Sodom and Gomorrah, Israel, has done crimes many times more wicked than the crimes for which God erased the biblical city by that name. Second, I'm alerting you to the fact that a merciful God did not send Abraham over to ask the residents of Sodom and Gomorrah to weigh in. Tell me, O degenerates of Sodom and Gomorrah, what your opinion is about your own mass butchery, mass thievery, looting, and raping. The Almighty simply said to Abraham that he'd spare Sodom and Gomorrah if Abraham could locate 50 and then 10 righteous people in Sin City of antiquity. Abraham failed. He could not. There were not even 10 righteous individuals to be found in ancient Sodom and Gomorrah. Here I come to the third thing I am pointing out. The near none number of righteous people in ancient Sodom and Gomorrah obtains in the modern day serial killer state in Israel. Capital crime by state proxy and plenty cardinal sin is quite popular in the serial killer state. I'll provide you with an update of the accurate percentages of just how popular capital crime by state proxy is in Israel. These numbers have not changed since I wrote in May of 2024 an essay titled "The Jewish State is Genocidal, but is Israeli society sick too?" The answer then, like today, is oh yeah. In his many media appearances, Uri Goldberg, a long-time pro-Palestine Israeli academic, has remarked repeatedly that he is among a few thousand righteous souls in Israel, a few thousand. This explains the indelible reservoir of evil, a bottomless pit of it, expressed and acted out by Israeli society's most faithful representatives, the IDF, Israel Defense Forces, which is a citizen army. So, what did heroic Lebanese journalist Amal Khalil do that got her killed? In essence, that is the illegitimate question that the toady fake journalists of Channel 4 and mainstream corporate media have posed to Israel and have been posing to the serial killer state for 3 years of a killing spree. Mind you, Israel is in a comfortable groove, a second nature killing groove. It's not on a spree. The act of asking this question must earn the inquiring fake journalist nothing but your revulsion, your contempt. Miss Amal Khalil did what hundreds of Gaza's journalists did before they were targeted by the serial killer state and then martyred, often with their families. Khalil and colleagues had reported reality on the ground. In other words, they resisted. Reporting has become an act of resistance. At this stage of Israel's crime spree, Channel 4 and similar collaborators like BBC News, Fox News, CNN, on and on, they persist in asking the serial killer state for its side of the story. Enough, and what is wrong with these people? They must do us a kindness and quit their enacted cover-up and deception. Would these monstrous media collaborators have cozied up to Jeffrey Dahmer and asked him, "Mr. IDF Dahmer, please give us your side of the story regarding the last young man you murdered and cannibalized"? This is both sidism. Would the Sodom and Gomorrah media do both sidism with Dahmer? At this stage of the serial killer state's crime spree, media collaborators stateside and abroad have absolutely no right to dish up their reality-defying both sidism bullshit.